Hey guys, FunnyGuyTimmy here. Today I'm not using my shotgun mic. Today I'm using my Audio-Technica with the little round cover windscreen on it. I just wanted to do a little bit more with dynamic microphones instead of just my shotgun mic. Just kind of getting used to getting back in the zone of using dynamics, considering I do have a usable space for sensitive dynamic microphones and stuff like that. So anyway, this isn't really going to be a review of The Last Jedi necessarily. Doing reviews on this channel isn't really something that I do. I mean, doing reviews on movies, rather. I do microphone reviews and stuff like that. But I wanted to come at this from kind of a writing perspective, kind of a writing the view of a writer, an actor, and a filmmaker. That's the perspective that I come from. And if you guys have seen any of my other videos, I posted a rage video, more or less, about Batman v Superman, and I was intense, and there was just a lot that I didn't like, and I just had to get it out. And so this is kind of going to be that. It's not really going to be a review. And then, of course, when I watched Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows or Into the Shadows or whatever, the second Ninja Turtles movie, I was so enraged by so many cliches. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't that one. It was the first one. But I was just so enraged by so many of the cliches that I just broke my chair. I just ruined my chair. But anyway, so me and my roommate, my brother, we saw The Last Jedi early this year, not too long ago. And it was either that or like the last few days before the new year. Anyway, and we saw it, we left the theater, and we didn't talk to each other. We were both very confused. You know, and I kept saying to myself, I like that movie, right? I did like that movie. Was that a good movie? Was that a good movie? I don't know if I like that movie. And I kept just saying that. And I think for a whole day, we really didn't talk about the movie. We just kind of stayed on our own. And eventually we did start talking, and we went over the things we liked and things we didn't like. And eventually I came to the conclusion, after fleshing all this out, that I didn't really like the movie. That I didn't really like The Last Jedi. This may get into spoiler territory. I might not, but it may. Now, first out of the gate, let me just say, I think everyone who likes this movie is right to like the movie. I think everyone who hates this movie is right to hate this movie. I know that's confusing, but it's true. There's no real right or wrong answer. I would say for anyone who hadn't watched the original and hadn't watched the prequels, but started with The Force Awakens and started with that, and then went on, and then so it was Force Awakens and then The Last Jedi, and these are the only two that you've seen, this is probably a really good movie experience for you. If you're someone who grew up on the originals, or you saw the original three when they were in theaters, you're probably going to hate this one. I'm not one of those. I'm kind of like halfway in between. My family had the VHS, and we watched them, and I liked them as a kid. I liked the Star Wars movies as a kid. And then when it was the prequels and they were in theaters, we saw those in theaters, and I did enjoy those. But this one, not so much. I did like The Force Awakens. Let me just say that. I did like The Force Awakens. Now, a lot of people don't like this new series because they say that they're rehashing the original trilogy, which is kind of true and kind of not true. And this is the part where we're going to get into script writing and how I view movies and why watching a movie with me is incredibly difficult if you're one of my friends. So there's a difference between plot and story. The plot is basically the synopsis of the entire film. It is the summary of what happens, which is these people they're looking for this thing, they get this thing, these people have to go here, they do this, and they destroy this, and the movie's over. That's more or less the plot. And to be honest, the plot to The Force Awakens is almost beat for beat A New Hope. It's almost exactly the same. But the story is different. The story is different. And the story is more of, what is it about? What is the emotional journey that the characters go on? What kind of story is this? And for A New Hope, because Luke Skywalker was an everyman, that's, the character, the archetype that he was supposed to be, is the everyman. He's on a farm. He's like Superman with no powers, okay? He is like, he's just Clark Kent. That's it. He's not Superman, he's Clark Kent. He's just the every guy. And then eventually he gets swept into this venture that he didn't even ask for. And he gets taken, and he makes all these kind of mistakes and these errors, and he watches people die in front of him, and he keeps getting his ass handed to him in the bar, and, by sand people, and he just gets beaten, and eventually he gets this one shot, this one opportunity, and he lands it. And it literally is the hero's journey. It's one of the prime examples of a hero's journey. Now, The Force Awakens is not that. The Force Awakens is more of a mystery. It's more of a compelling setup mystery, because we don't know who Rey's parents are. We don't know who Snoke is. We don't know what turned Kylo to the dark side. And The Force Awakens set up all these questions, and it was done like a mystery. It's what happened? How did we get here? Why is Luke gone? It was all that kind of stuff. So that was basically more or less the story, and all these characters are trying to figure this out. What is going on? How did this happen? How did we get from the last of the original 3 to this one? How did we get here? What happened? And in that sense, I really liked it. I did enjoy it. It was a good film. It's not one of my favorite Star Wars films of all time. I think Rogue One is definitely better. Just because I kind of like the diversity of characters a little bit more. Also, I am one with the Force, and the Force was with me. That entire character was interesting. He was just so intriguing. But okay, so now we're in The Last Jedi, and I can't tell you, 'cause from what I saw and the lines that I gathered and watching the characters, what the story was. I'm not sure what the story was about. I know I have an idea of what the plot is, but the plot kind of isn't really the entirety of the movie. The plot, the plot's really simple, and it's kind of like surrounded by two bookends. The plot is the First Order is chasing the rebels, and they have to escape. That's it. It's very simple. They have to just get away, and they have a plan, more or less. I don't want to really go into that, but so that's the plot. The story, I don't know what it is. It's not a mystery, because all of the things we wanted to know kind of, this may be spoiler warning territory, but the things that we kind of wanted to know didn't really pay off. There was nothing there. They were shot out of the air. There was a lot of wasted time in this film. There's a lot of people that agree that the casino scene is probably the worst part of the movie. There was a lot of bringing in new characters that really didn't go anywhere and didn't add anything to the existing character's story arc, and didn't really add anything to the story or the plot, and they didn't move anything forward. And that was the part that was really now, all the things that they did in the film, all the things that they were trying to do, I was okay with for the most part. The only thing that I didn't like, and again, this is coming from a writer's perspective, is how they did it. It was totally okay. Again, spoiler territory. It was okay that they killed off a lot of characters from the original, like they did with Han Solo in The Force Awakens, which I was okay with. I got it. Like I felt like his death meant something. There was a reason he died, and that did kind of more or less follow into the following film. It did kind of move forward into the following film. It does come up in conversation, and it does add layers to Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. So that I was okay with. But then the deaths in this one don't really pay off. There's no explanation. There's no real reason. Now, of course, there's a lot of people complaining about the whole General Akbar thing. And personally, I didn't really care for the character. It wasn't really all that cool. The only thing that I would add to that is from what Rian Johnson, the director, said when people were asking about General Akbar. How come you just killed him? He's not, like, you don't even see him. I don't even think you see him on camera ever. The character's just part of the ship explodes and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, he's dead in space. It was just like a footnote. The thing that he said in response was, well, we only have so much time in the film. We can't dedicate that many minutes or that much time to pre-existing characters and give them a final send-off. But my question to that would be, then why set up a new character to more or less take his place to end up die anyway? And the character, there's never really... I'm talking about the character Holdo, which I have a lot of confusing... Like, almost that entire character was plot holes and frustration. Almost everything that character did was basically just an obstacle for other characters. This character was an antagonist through almost the entire film, and then for a minute of the film is a protagonist in a dumb way. Why did we bother building this character, giving this character a backstory, which is briefly summarized, giving this character a backstory, giving this character conflict with other characters, bringing them into the world, and they've never been introduced before? I mean, this is supposedly a major, player in the rebellion, and you've never heard of this person. They've never come into conversation before, only to get killed off in, a pretty cool way. But that death could have gone to anyone. That's the part where people are, really confused, really wondering, how come that didn't, that wasn't, taken care of. Now, someone has said that the guy who played General Akbar passed away. I don't know at what point in time he passed away, but it's not like we haven't brought, people in to give them a send-off or recreated characters through CGI. But the character was completely CGI the last time we saw him. It wouldn't have been that hard, but that's why people are frustrated with that, is that as a scriptwriter, you shouldn't spend that much time and energy building a character that ultimately isn't going to matter in the end result. Spoiler alert, they get to the planet that they were trying to escape to, and the enemy just gets there anyway. The enemy just finds them there anyway. At this point, there's so many people dead that it was like, well, why'd you do that? Of course, I can go into like the how they got all the science of space and space travel wrong, and weaponry wrong, but I can understand why people like this movie. This one, The Last Jedi, I can say, is different. It is different. It doesn't have a super weapon. It doesn't have a massive Death Star. I mean, true, there is this gigantic spaceship chasing them, but it's not a Death Star. And there is, this gigantic cannon that they use to try to blast a hole in a blast door, but it's not really, there's no Death Star. So they got past that as far as the Star Wars tropes so far, except for the original or the prequels. It's almost always been a gigantic super weapon. So they got away from that, which I appreciated. The best character in this is Kylo Ren, is Ben Solo. He's the best character. He has so much depth. He has so many layers. And the reason that he's so good is because he has conflict. He has flaws. He has tons of flaws. He makes tons of mistakes. He is constantly flopping back and forth. And I think he makes human-like decisions. Nobody's, just one direction. No one's just one decision. No one's just one thing all the way through. He has conflicts in himself, and that's what made him so good. But at the same time, using him as an example of, I didn't really like Rey in this one as much as I did in The Force Awakens. And a lot of that, again, spoiler alert, I shouldn't have to say that continuously, but they play off her family as just being nobodies, which now degrades how I saw and how I interpreted The Force Awakens as being this setup and this mystery and this this universe this new Star Wars universe that we're going to be going into. Now, the whole questioning where she came from and who Snoke was and how we got here doesn't matter. They basically, everything that was set up that you wanted to find out more of, which is the whole reason of doing things episodically, is basically thrown away. And I can see that, if Rian Johnson was doing the third one, if he was doing the third film and he had a different idea, he's like, I want to set this up for something else, I could understand that. But he didn't. He's not doing the third one. There's someone else doing the third one. And yes, they handed it off to him. He can write whatever he wants. But the fact that he didn't even, it's really just one sentence that just goes, yeah, Rey, your parents are nobodies. And it's one scene that is just like, yeah, Snoke, who cared? And that's the thing that a lot of people didn't like. And I know the internet wants to say that if you don't like this movie, that you're the alt-right or you're, some kind of sexist or racist or something like that, which some people have tried to claim that that's my perspective, and that's not even close. My thing was that everything in the movie I'm okay with, but it was all handled really poorly. Now, I think there is a way of fixing, not really fixing, but fixing Rey in the next one. And this is my theory. I don't really do film theories or any kind of thing like that. If she's the chosen one. If she's the chosen one, we find out she is the chosen one, which is just someone that the Force basically either summons or manifests to bring balance to the Force, then that would explain why she is so powerful with the Force and is so skilled with everything she touches and everyone she talks to. Because we've seen what Kylo can do, we've seen what Snoke can do, and we've seen how weak Luke is at this point. Which means that in order to bring balance to the Force, you got the dark side over here, they're way more powerful, and you got the one Jedi who's way down here. In order to balance it out, you have to bring up someone to be really, really powerful. That would explain it, and I would be okay with that, and I think that would make a lot of the questions that people have about Rey's character make more sense. And it could also play off the whole, her parents were nobodies. Her parents literally don't matter. It literally is all about her. And I would be fine with that. And I'm not torn up about the whole General Akbar thing. I always thought he looked disgusting as a kid. It's frustrating that, you would build a character just to get rid of him when you could have just gotten rid of another character and just give them a send-off. So as far as let's go on to Rose. Let's quickly do Rose. Because, and the reason I want to cover Rose real quick in this is, again, from a writer's perspective, I liked her, but I didn't like how she turned out. Let me just say this. Going into it, seeing her come in, I was hesitant, but when started to get her character, I mean, the whole casino thing, all that's just wasted dialogue. But the reason she existed, the reason she was there in the script, the reason she's there in the Star Wars story, I like that. And the dynamic between her and Finn, I was looking forward to, in the sense that Finn used to be a stormtrooper, raised in basically a stormtrooper academy, taken away from his parents, orphaned, and then just raised to be a soldier. He's never known family. He's never known love. He's never known compassion. It's basically he's just been, one of the ginger-headed stepchildren of Phasma, just constantly beaten and, being yelled at and just seeing war and death. And so his dynamic between her can be very, very interesting. The fact that she's highly compassionate and he doesn't really know anything other than himself, which is basically all he's been taught through the Stormtrooper Academy or whatever, is to basically just be a soldier, be single-minded, obey the First Order, and he disobeyed the First Order. So now he's just himself. So now he has nothing else but himself. And so to bring in a character that actually feels something for him, that can introduce him to the concept of love, compassion, and all this kind of stuff, while at the same time, Rey can go off and do her adventure, because I know I felt like originally it was supposed to be her and Finn getting together, but I kind of didn't care, and I think Rian Johnson felt the same way, and he was like, nah, just let Rey be Rey, let Finn be Finn, but we're going to give Finn someone and something to hold on to. And so as far as why the character existed, I did like her, and I had high hopes, but there was so many things that, and again, none of this is the actor's fault. None of this is the actor's fault, and I think a lot of this is probably not even Rian Johnson's fault. But again, there wasn't a solid payoff for her. She made a lot of conflicting decisions. There was a lot of things that she did or said that really didn't go with things that she said or did, or other things that people have said and done, like earlier, like the whole sacrifice thing. Her sister sacrificed herself at the beginning of the movie, and when someone else is about to sacrifice themselves, she's like, no. So it was a little confusing. Again, it was all execution. I think this movie, if there's a better payoff in the third one, and it really explains why, this is left with a lot more questions. We're actually left with a lot more questions in this one than we were in The Force Awakens, which is okay. But the problem is that what should have been is we should have gotten some answers to the questions that we had, gotten more depth to the remaining questions, and then add new questions. And then we go on to the climax. But what happened is the answers to the questions that we had from The Force Awakens were either just tossed to the side like they didn't matter, like our entire film, like our entire viewing experience of The Force Awakens was wasted. And then having us ask even more questions. So, but they weren't even good questions. Just like, well, why? Why did this person just have to just die? Why did this have to happen? Why did it wasn't good questions that it left us asking. When I walked out of the movie, I wanted to give it a 0 out of 10 stars. After thinking about it, I gave it 2 out of 10 stars. Now, having thought about it a good bit more, I would give it 4 out of 10 stars. I still don't like it, and all of this comes from a writing perspective. It doesn't come from a fanboy's perspective. Like, I haven't read any of the comics. I haven't really played any of the games, the Star Wars games. I haven't read any of the books. I haven't even watched the Clone Wars series or the Rebels series. The only thing I know is the movies, and just from a writing perspective, it fell flat for me. So this was kind of more or less just my perspective on films and writing kind of thing, and just it's been bugging me for a while. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, because I don't know, you might be that other 50% that really like this movie and you want to give it a thumbs down. That's fine. It's totally okay. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. If you want to answer any of the questions that I raised, leave them down in the comment section below. So until next time, peace.